When is the right time to jump from one camera brand to another? I think the answer is going to be different for everyone. For me, I have to feel my gear is holding me back from being able to produce everything my clients are asking for when they approach me for a job. Currently, there are also some trends like the recent movement most camera companies are making toward mirrorless bodies, including the 2 new ones that Canon just announced. You bundle all this together along with the current state of things, and there are a lot of things to consider before jumping from one ship to another. Well, let's jump into it after the intro. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. First of all, it is hot as you know what outside, but I have to turn off my AC to run audio in here, actually it's right here, without a hiss in the background. So I'm hoping that I'm not in a complete sweat by the time I can get this in the can. But anyway, let's get into it. First of all, actually second of all, since first of all was the air conditioning, but second of all, in the grand scheme of things, let me just say we shouldn't take all this camera talk too seriously. After all, there are just a lot more serious problems facing the world right now than us photographers deciding what camera to buy. At the end of the day, these are just cameras, but some of us use them to make a living, so they're important. And if you're watching this, it's something you're interested in, but let's just try to keep a little bit of perspective. That being said, for gearheads like myself, all of this can be a fun distraction to what's going on in the real world. And if we're being real as a photographer, who doesn't like a shiny new camera? All right, now I can safely say that there has never been a time with more functional cameras in the world than right now. There have been some pretty remarkable camera announcements made here recently that have me thinking about the future of my gear. So I thought I would make a little video that tries to lay out my thought process when contemplating a decision about what camera system to buy into. Also, I'm not sponsored, unfortunately, by any camera company, and the only allegiance I might have to a certain camera is a feeling of nostalgia from using a certain type and brand of camera to capture specific images that hold a special place in my memories. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, there are so many variables when it comes to deciding on which camera you'll be holding during a photo shoot. I can only relay my experience and thought process when it comes to making the decision for myself. All right, I know it might be hard to believe, but I started during the days of film cameras, and this is my dad's old Canon AE1. This is the actual camera that introduced me to photography. Pretty cool to still have it, and it always brings back memories of my dad and I looking at my pictures I took when the prints came back from the lab. For that reason, this camera will always mean a lot to me, regardless of what brand it is. Several years later, I switched over to Nikon, and I've been very happy with the camera progression over the years with these cameras. For nostalgia's sake, I've actually held on to my first digital SLR and its massive 5 megapixel sensor, the Nikon D1X. And here is the latest Nikon DSLR, the D850, which is the best camera I've ever used. Before this, just for reference, I've progressed through the D200, the D300, the D700, the D800, and the D810. It's been a good ride with these cameras. So why would I be making a video like this? Well, things are changing. A couple of years ago when I moved up to the D850, video was not as much of a priority as it has become today. Fantastic stills camera? Yes. Video? Not so much. It's pretty much unusable if you're going to rely on the autofocus. The evolution of these cameras is headed in the direction of mirrorless also, allowing for smaller form factors, and along with that, the video capabilities in those mirrorless cameras continues to get better and better. I'm actually recording this with a Nikon Z6 mirrorless because it does have some decent autofocus that I can comfortably rely on for this type of setting. Now, back to the bigger picture. These days when I'm approached about a job, one of the first follow-up questions is, can you shoot video? With the current health situation, agencies and companies are wanting to restrict the number of people on set. So if you can offer both still and video, you're setting yourself ahead of others who can't. So to comfortably answer that question, you'll need a camera you can count on for both aspects. That brings us to July 2020, and we are on the cusp of some second, third, and maybe fourth generation mirrorless camera announcements. Things have come a long way with the technology that is being packed into these cameras, and it has me, for one, thinking about what tool I'm going to be choosing to move forward with into the future. Now, I've hinted at video being a major aspect in choosing my next camera, but there are some things that I'll be looking at on the still side in a potential camera that this D850 has really done well for me. Those are things like overall image quality, the resolution megapixels of the sensor, possible frames per second for capturing action on and off a strobe lit set, fast, reliable focusing, and an EVF that I'm comfortable working with. And that's a big one. A lot of the early generation EVFs or electronic viewfinders have or had a lag between what was going on in front of the camera and what you were seeing in the camera. I don't have as much experience with EVFs. This one has one here, but so some of that is on me, and I know the technology in this area has made some fantastic leaps forward with resolution and refresh rates over the past few years. So if you're convinced that a mirrorless camera can now produce images of equal quality to a DSLR, it might even be easier to use at this point, what is the elephant in the room? Lenses. Earlier, I mentioned my progression through the Nikon ecosystem, and through all those years, I've collected the glass that goes with those cameras. There's a lot of money in this glass here, and it can be a difficult pill to swallow to switch to a camera that will be using something different. However, the slate is pretty much being wiped clean with the move to mirrorless. Even with the Nikon, these lenses will only work with an adapter on the new mirrorless Z cameras. That's one reason I only have one native Z-mount lens, currently for my Z6. Don't get me wrong, it's a great camera along with the Z7, but I didn't feel it was a worthy replacement quite yet for this guy. For that reason, and the fact that new lenses will be needed regardless, I've been waiting for the next generation of mirrorless cameras, and I believe we are weeks, maybe months from seeing that become a reality. Full disclosure, I've got a Canon EOS R5 on pre-order, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that camera might fit into my workflow. If it can hit the targets I'm looking for on the stills side, I won't have a problem changing ecosystems. I actually did it earlier this year on the medium format side, going from phase 1 to Fuji with this guy here, and I couldn't be happier with the decision. Although the timing could have been better with everything that's happened since the beginning of the year. At the end of the day, if you aren't being paid by a company to use their gear, why not go out and find what camera best suits your needs? We aren't on camera teams, and these guys don't know who's holding them, so why should we feel any differently? As I mentioned earlier, certain cameras do hold a special place with me, so I might keep them for that reason. But when it comes to the present day and delivering for clients, you bet I'm going to provide myself, within reason, with the best tool for the job. Okay, I think that just about does it for me today. I do have the Canon R5 coming in, hopefully next week. So maybe I'll do an unboxing and initial thoughts video on that camera. If that's something you'd be interested in, please let me know in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, a thumbs up would be greatly appreciated. And if you'd like to see more content like this in the future, please hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell down there next to it. Since I'm talking about switching up some gear, if any of you would be interested in what gear I'm using currently for this YouTube setup, you can let me know that in the comments as well. And I can see about making maybe a video regarding what I'm using here to make all this magic happen. Stay safe and healthy out there, and I hope to be here in the next one after I put all this gear back away and not kill myself.